Rip. And it's your man Keith Report, aka Mr. Moscato, aka the greatest man walking.
You just want to talk about any of the normal stuff
Rip.
we talk about. That's
Trooper Joe and
absolutely fine. If you guys want to talk about some of the stuff you normally
Are we
do.
gonna get callers?
He would say we got something locally, but he wouldn't even. Well, what we have locally, you want to do.
I was about to say a lot of stuff he was talking about.
So when he comes on, he can talk
Yeah.
about the stuff he gonna be
But I'm
talking
saying to get their point of view on them topics would be, you know what I mean? You understand what I'm saying?
I can't do much on the Super Bowl topic.
Why not? You don't like football?
I don't watch it.
Yeah, I know you have loved ones that watch it though. Just I feel so what is it? Hypocritical and like contradictive liking football. You know? Especially all this new information with the CTE and I'm a big conspiratorist. I believe in conspiracies like Flint, Michigan and all that other
91.3
stuff.
WCW Voiceless is back in the house. Same bad time, same bad station. Nate either goes Baraki, ex Kuta Kente, I'm in the house. You already know.
It's your man Keith Laporte, a.k.a. Sherlock Keys the Thor, a.k.a. the most interesting man, Proby. He said Proby. I got to come up with a new word. On the streets of Worcester. Could you help me? And we got a special guest, 3 guests. One used to be on. Check in.
Alright, you guys introduce yourself, you guys, right?
Go ahead.
My name is Asima Silva. I'm the Director of Outreach for EnjoyingGood.org.
Alright. When you guys talk, you gotta be real close to the mic because we gotta get some
Okay.
upgrades on the mic, you know? So just say that again.
My name is Asima Silva. I'm the Director of Outreach for EnjoyingGood.org.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ahmed Abujirade. I'm the VP of Wellness and Director of Mental Health for Muslim Community Link.
Alright. And we got Will McNeil, True Fit News. He gonna be on a little bit later, but you can introduce yourself.
I'm Trooper Joe, and I'm here to keep it real for you.
Yeah. Shout out to Trooper Joe. He's the other host that's on our show. He's up in Houston, you said?
Utah.
Utah? He's
Yep.
up in Utah doing something. He's always traveling the whole world.
Yeah, the Arbinger program. He's teaching it.
All right,
Or
so-
learning something about it.
All right, so shout out to Trooper Joe, man. Do your thing, man. And we have our other guest. He's always coming through.
Okay.
Saint Mike, J Thriller, Mike Talk a Lot, Negro Spiritual, One Man Gang, Beautiful Mind, Lucifer Hunter, Jesus Crack, I'm in the building.
Dang. Yo, Dre, do you add another name every time you come on the show?
Yo, fam, the catalog is extensive.
All right, but shout out to man. Shout out to everybody that came on the show today. Shout out to people that's listening. But I want to kind of like jump into the topic because we got 2 guests on, and I want to make sure that we get everything we want to get out of the guests. All right, so why you guys on? Ahmed, you can go first. Let me know why you're on.
Yeah, so we just wanted to come on, just say hi. And from the introductions, I realized I need to work on mine. But, just to talk a little bit about some of the things going on with the Muslim community here in Worcester. Just to talk a little bit about the atmosphere, what's going on, and then, just talk about, everything outside the Muslim community as well, because it's all so interconnected.
Totally. I mean, there's a lot going on. You want to say something?
No, basically my interest is more about the bullying and misunderstanding and misconceptions that revolve around children that may be different ethnically, religiously, racially, and working with schools and teachers and educators to understand that bullying does affect children lifelong. It's an effect of lifelong trauma.
You mean specifically bullying of Muslim children?
Anything, particularly Islamophobia is what I concentrate on. But when I say Islamophobia, because Muslims are of various genders and race and ethnicities, it kind of incorporates that in it.
So Islamophobia also could include like misidentifying someone, right?
Yes.
That happens frequently. Hateful people are pretty stupid sometimes, right? So I have a question though, if
Sure.
you don't mind. So were you affiliated with the Meet a Muslim Day?
Yes, both of us were.
All right. So just my love, like that was absolutely heartbreaking to see. I don't necessarily understand that. I think I understand the logic behind it, but I mean, like, damn, really, this is what you gotta do to disown. I feel like it's about white people. You got this is what you have to do to disarm people. Like, look, hey, come meet one of us. It felt a little dehumanizing. It felt a little objectified. Like, was that your idea? Was that someone else suggesting? What are your feelings around that?
Yeah, so I completely understand your concern, and I can definitely see where you're coming from. Because you know, you're absolutely right. When we say, you know, meet one of us, whether it's meet a Muslim day, meet a black person day, meet a Latino, you know, it can definitely be taken the wrong way. And I think with Meet a Muslim Day, it was taken the wrong way in some communities. I think the idea behind it, and you know, it wasn't directly our idea, but we did support it. And the idea behind it was not for the white man or the oppressors. It was just to increase, basically for inclusiveness between different groups, and that includes all groups. Because I know a lot of African Americans that don't know Muslims, or Latinos that have never met a Muslim, or Asian Americans that have never met a Muslim. And so the idea of it was just to reach out to the community, just to say, you know what, we're going to put ourselves out there. We're going to be vulnerable for you guys. This is basically a gift from us. And I think that the main concern that a lot of people have is that now it's going to be expected from every group. And it should definitely not be expected from every group, because, like I said, I feel like it was a gift that we were giving, but it's definitely not something that should be expected from everyone. It's definitely not something everyone needs to do, because people also have the responsibility to go out there and get educated on their own and to find out more about this stuff. I think with the Muslim community, they were just dealing with a lot of things at that time. And so they felt like instead of having people just get educated on their own and everything and to wait it out, they wanted to do something, again, just as a gift to the community. And again, I completely understand where people's concerns come from, and I completely get it. And I think we could have done a better job reaching out to those communities, just to discuss it and everything, to find the best way to do it. But I do think that it was a gift from the Muslim community.
Okay, Keith's got a question.
Yes.
Hopefully it's a question. Sometimes it's like a comment question.
No,
Which is great.
It is. It probably
So it
is
was
one
a
of those.
statement.
Because I want to take this time to be truthful, to address the ignorance that I hear. Like I said, I listen to Jordan Levy and them, and they look at us as if we're something different. Like we're all human, we all bleed the same. And I want to take this moment to let our listeners know what the difference is. The difference is your faith. The difference is, explain to them what you know what I mean. What's the definition of Islam or being Islam?
Yeah.
You know what I mean. Let people know what's Islam. What's being a Muslim? Because I really believe, like, you have people out here who are so ignorant that when you say Muslims or you say Islam, they automatically correlate it to them, like the terrorists, or you know what I mean, the radicals. There's no definition, no defined, you know what I mean, clear line of what are you? What are y'all? Well, what's the difference between me and you, and even the ones who don't know? Explain
There
it
was
to
12 questions, fam.
No, I'm just saying. So explain to them what Muslim is, what Islam is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think that's the whole point of getting to meet somebody, is to let them know.
Can I do it?
Exactly. Absolutely.
So I can take a stab at that. Just before I start, in the terms of Meet a Muslim, I think it was our attempt to humanize a Muslim, because the media dehumanizes. Sitcoms and TV shows dehumanize. So I think it was our attempt to humanize what is a Muslim. And to your question, what is Islam and being a Muslim is, it's extremely very close to Judaism and Christianity. We are one of the Abrahamic faiths. To be a Muslim means we have to believe in Jesus and Moses. We have to believe in the gospel. We have to believe in the Torah. We believe that Prophet Muhammad came as the last prophet, meaning that we still have to believe from Adam all the way down, including ones that we're not aware of, that haven't been named. So to me, Islam is very inclusive, because Zoroaster could have been a prophet, Buddha could have been a prophet. We know of 25 named ones in the Bible and in the biblical literature that we do know of definite as prophets, such as Solomon and David and whatnot. To be a Muslim really does mean practicing the love and compassion that Christianity preaches. Laws are very similar to what the Jewish people follow. We also, as Muslims, don't eat pork or alcohol, similar to the Jewish faith. So it isn't an alien religion, and I think that's what is confusing to a lot of people, since they don't understand. And I would encourage people to ask questions. And it was a great question that you asked, because once you ask it, you'll realize that it is much closer to what you already believe in than not.
Yeah, and I would even keep it even simpler. When I was taught, the faith is submission. It's surrendering your life to God, and being a Muslim is one who surrenders. So on a simple level, everybody has faith and they surrender their life to God. You know what I mean? So
Not everybody has.
no, but just think, even the ones who believe in Jesus, they have surrendered their life in some
It's not everyone.
Not everybody
to
believes
God.
in
Yeah, I
Jesus.
know. But even if they lie, but that's what I want to lead to. It's just, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
defining that word in the simple steps for people who don't even understand. Like that's
I would
what.
say submission, not surrender. Submission is an act of will. Surrender sounds as if you didn't have a choice.
Yes.
And you were cornered into a position. It's more of submission. So we choose to say our life is in to please God, and to please God is to be the best people we can be, into learning and practicing love and compassion in the way God told us to love our neighbor. In Islam, we are not a true believer unless we love for our neighbor what we love for ourselves. And the neighbor is not qualified. It is not qualified as white or Muslim or Jewish or Christian. It is just the neighbor. So that is how we are supposed to live our lives, and that's what it means to be a Muslim.
My question is to you, Isama.
Asama,
Asama.
yes.
Alright. Do you work with kids that been affected in school by bullying? Like, can you give us an example on one of the bullying that happened to one of the kids that you've been working with?
Yeah, I can talk about my own daughter. The reason why I got involved in this from the beginning was the way my daughter had to deal with some of the bullying in school. When 9/11 happened, she was in middle school. Kids usually don't tell parents what's going on because it's embarrassing for them. They also don't want to tell parents because they're afraid a parent will go to the teacher or the principal and talk, and it becomes embarrassing overall.
Yes.
I found out later that, a couple of years later, that after 9/11, kids were spitting in her lunch.
Wow.
She was just throwing her lunch out to avoid me asking questions, why didn't you have lunch today? During her 8th grade graduation, I didn't know this because I was in the bleachers a considerable distance away, while she was getting her, a certificate, the kids were spitting at her as she was walking up. And I noticed after the ceremony, she did not want to take pictures. She didn't want to take family pictures. She was very upset. I could see that she was upset with something. I had to tell my son to go talk to her and figure out what's going on because it was just, I couldn't understand why someone would be so upset on such a happy occasion. To find out that that's why she was upset. We tried a couple of things that I found out during middle school. When we did approach the principal and the vice principal, a lot of them kind of shoved it under the rug by saying, "Oh, kids will be kids," or we'll figure out who they are and we'll do something. But the problem is, as my daughter would say, "Mom, even if you complain, they just get smarter about it. They just do it where the teacher doesn't notice." So, first, I think the educators don't realize there is such thing called Islamophobia. We need to first work on, just like they don't understand racism, right? That people do get picked on for their skin color or race. And my daughter goes to the Wachusett district, so you can understand that race is not, yeah. So it's not, there's not very diverse. So if you're already with even slightly a darker skin or you're of a different faith, you will stand out. You will be different.
Real quick, if anybody want to call in on this topic, 508-753-2284. But that's crazy. That's nuts. Wachusett boy.
Damn, I really wanted to ask my other question, but alright, I'm gonna try to save the other one for later because, like, what you just said. So I remember after 9/11 happened, right? And I've always been kind of like a different type of thinker. But when that happened, and I don't. This is probably gonna be. If this is offensive, just let me know. If you don't want to speak to us, you don't have to speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
If that disclaimer was offensive, let me know. But so after 9/11 happened, right, and it got hit. There was like all type of people in it. There was black people that was in it, right. So for the most part, like when I see like jihadists or Islamic radicals who got beef with America and they hit a target, I ain't really got no problem with it, right? Because it's a common, like, I know why that's coming, right? I grew up in like amongst in an urban area where we had like gang violence and it's retaliatory, right? And sometimes people in the middle get hit. It's not really about you, right? But you got to respond accordingly, right? So after 9/11 hit, I understood what happened. Like, I wasn't really like, they was like, yeah, they hit us because of our freedom. You know, we could watch porn and they can't do that, you know, this type of stuff, right? And, you know, people don't fly into buildings because you get to watch porn, and they mad about that, right? And so I got that, but at the same time, it was an indiscriminate hit. They was like, yo, whoever out there is getting it, right? And I understand it, but I live here, right? I'm an American. My kids live here, right? And I understand this is the response to foreign policy. I say all that to say this, right? And in response to that, there was a conditioning of the American populace to respond to that attack. You know, like people took advantage of that, and so that was intense programming and conditioning, like over the top patriotism and nationalism. How do you expect to realistically expect to counter that on a level? It's like if you're going to the army, right? If you can envision like an army of people being conditioned, like imagine like the militancy in the military is like the conditioning of a military, right?
Yeah.
And then you trying to go to the underlings and say, hey, don't listen to that. That's nonsense. That's bogus. Don't do that. That's mean. It's not really going to be effective. I'm saying that in the context of unfortunately, your child going to the school, we're getting fed that, yo, they're going to hit anybody. So you can like how do you expect to effectively dismantle that dynamic? You understand? I mean, that was loaded, right?
Yep.
But
That was a very loaded question. Yes. But yeah, absolutely. It's
Speaking to the mic.
yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. You know, these problems have been there for a long time. It's not like the jihadists were the first people to have a problem with certain things with our foreign policy or different ways that we've reacted in the past. I mean, within our history over the last 400 years, there have been so many different injustices and so many different groups that have been angered by this. And I think, to an extent, it's not necessarily that you disagree 100% with the anger. It's just what you do with that anger, right? So as Muslims, we need to condemn whatever they're doing in the name of our religion, right? We can't necessarily say they're not Muslims because I can't say anyone is not a Muslim, right? People have that right. They have the freedom to say whatever they would like to, but we condemn that act because it goes against everything we believe in within our religion, right? As far as getting to people that have been conditioned, because like you said, it was such a huge campaign after 9/11, and I always say that Islamophobia existed before 9/11. It didn't necessarily have the same name, but it was always there. I remember a few months before 9/11, the local mosque that I used to go to as a kid was vandalized, and we didn't really understand, why anything was happening, and then 9/11 happened, and then more vandalization, but it was always there. But 9/11 just gave people a platform to be able to say the things they say against Islam. To spread the hate, to do the conditioning that you're talking about. And it just made it justifiable, right? It made it that, yes, Islam is a problem. It's not just a few people like we normally talk about with, like the KKK and stuff. We never really questioned, is this Christianity? It was always like, okay, just a group of extremists. Let's not give them the, the spotlight and say they're Christians, right? But as far as trying to counteract that, to be honest with you, I don't know the exact best way to do it on a massive level. But I think some of the things that we're doing is we're trying to raise more awareness about what Islam actually is, what it's like to actually be a Muslim, how it's so interconnected. Because a lot of what you said, again, are extremely connected. It's the same problems that we've been seeing for hundreds of years. So actually raising awareness about all those things. And the thing with being conditioned is that it's always going against who you are as an individual, right? We're not born to be abusive. We're not born to hate. We're born to love and to have compassion and all those things. So when people start learning a little bit more, they'll start self-questioning it themselves. And yes, it might take a while. I don't think we're going to end all these kinds of things in the next day or so, or even the next couple of years, because again, they're also interconnected. So if we end Islamophobia now, those same people that are being discriminated upon will still be discriminated upon. I mean, I get discriminated upon just as much because I'm an immigrant, because of my mental health illnesses, because I'm not white, and a lot of Muslims get discriminated upon because of those things as well. So even if we end Islamophobia tomorrow or next year, we still have so much more problems that we need to deal with, and I think those are huge things that we also need to address.
I was just really sympathetic, really quickly. I was really sympathetic because as you were telling the story, I'm like, damn, like, what could you do in that situation, right? Because that has to be expected, right? And so, like, I mean, there's a lot of similarities to, like, the stuff that we grew up in, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, growing up in hostile communities. And that, I mean, that you're going to, that's why I asked that question, because kids are so influential.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be gung-ho, America, America, and that's going to happen. You have to know the first day back to school. Like, I'm thinking myself, I'm not saying you advocate for that. The only advice I would take with my kids, I mean, it's like, yo, the first one who say anything, you air them out. Like, you have to go, there's no other way. You're not going to get any safety in that school. Everybody came to school with the same messaging, right? And so that's really difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's two sides of it where we have to change the culture, like you said, getting rid of that conditioning, but also at the same time make it unacceptable for people to act a certain way. And right now with our judicial systems, with our policies in place in schools, everywhere, it's very acceptable to do some of these things. Like Asima said, with her daughter, the principal and vice principal didn't really do much.
They was like, yes, that's what they're supposed to say.
Exactly.
I mean, they can't say that, but you're right. That's what you're supposed to say. America.
Yes.
They patting the kid on the back
Don't worry about
and behind the scenes like, yeah, good job, good job.
Is that what you said?
Well,
It's what you said. I mean, and it went further. It didn't stop at that.
You gotta
And
get
when
an
she went to
arrested
high
people.
school, we had an incident with a teacher. She decided when she was in 10th grade that she would want to wear the hijab, which is the headscarf.
Yeah.
And I tried convincing her. I said, this is really not the time to start wearing such a predominantly obvious symbol of being a Muslim. And she just insisted she wanted to. It was her choice.
Real quick, I want to give your daughter a quick shout out. That is
yeah, what's her name?
courage,
Yo,
and that's strength, and that's
Especially in that
that's
environment.
what shows a lot
That's
of
what we need
conviction.
in kids.
So there's a lot of conviction from her. So like, you don't give her a shout out. I appreciate her.
Yeah, she did try. And even after the Boston Marathon bombings, I asked her, and she told me, she said, I'm a little afraid going back to school. And I said to her, there's nothing wrong with taking off the headscarf because it's your choice. And she at that time said, no, Mom, I'd still like to do it. And I think a lot of kids, even if they change their mind in the future, I think a lot of kids try to feel the waters, to feel if they're accepted. Not necessarily, it might not be a lifelong decision, but I think they want to know that they're still going to be accepted if they do something like that. Unfortunately, a week after the Boston Marathon bombings, a teacher did make a very discriminatory remark to her about her headscarf. And again, that's when I started getting involved and realized that this is a real problem.
Yeah.
As a parent, like, so after that happened, of course you went to the school, right, and you addressed the situation. What was the response from that teacher?
They said that, I never got an apology from the teacher.
Wow.
But they did say that they made her stay at home for a couple days. When I told my son that that's what they did, my son said, so you mean she got a long weekend? There was nothing else done otherwise. The teacher at that time was going to give her a failing grade for the year-long project, which would have meant she would have flunked the entire year course. She was given a choice to drop down a level or take that grade. And again, I kept going further and further, went to the superintendent at that time, had ACLU had to get involved. It took about 4 or 5 months to get her grade, and I never saw the entire grade list, but she was given a B-. I'm not quite sure if that's what she deserved or not.
She deserved an A+ in my
So,
book.
that's where my interest of this bullying and this kind of problem. What I decided I couldn't complain if I wasn't going to do something about it, and
Hey, good
that's
for
where
you.
I started.
Good for you. I took my hat off to you. Keep the fight going, because I already know that you already have so much mean stuff that's going on, social media, online. I can imagine how much stuff she gets if she's on Facebook, anything like that. I can imagine the comments or inboxes that she get from her classmates. She probably didn't even show you. She does have Facebook because she's such a strong individual. I really appreciate your daughter.
Thank
She's
you.
a real strong person. We need to have more kids like that in school, stand up for themselves and and just be like that too as well. I mean, we talk about racism in school, like a lot of kids of color, to me, don't get it. You know, like it seems like she gets it. You know, so like
She may get it, but we have to still understand that there's always scars.
yeah.
There's always those scars that all the kids are left with. They may be coming out in certain areas as winners, but they are still dealing with those scars.
Oh yeah. I can do a lot psychologically
Yeah.
too, you know. So she's a strong person. If you see her, tell her that Voiceless think she's real strong, and maybe that'll give her some good energy. But
You have another question? I have a question.
hey,
Yeah,
Mike,
yeah, shit, that
he
was.
doesn't have a question.
I do have a question.
All right.
I wanted to know.
Knew he's gonna do that.
No, I really wanted to go into facts about just the history of just America, what America plays in, you know, because it's sickening to think. I'm like, yo, what if you? So I'm pretty sure, like, y'all know the history. You know the history, and you heard you allude to policies, and like, we got truth to it right here. Like, the truth to it comes from, at the end of the day, this is I love America to death. I'm an American, but this comes from America. You know what I mean? This comes from, so jihad was actually sparked by American money. You know what I mean? By the UN to go ahead and try to, you know what I mean, I guess get intel on this problem. So this is something America kind of feeded. And how, for this to spawn into this and to see what American media does to it, like, it's just nuts. Because you tell your kid the truth, the kid goes to school and tells the teacher something the teacher doesn't know, and then you go to the educational system and you point at the teacher, like, at one point in time, school was about challenging knowledge. Like, yeah, I remember my first history teacher was like, yeah, it's about knowing something, and if it doesn't seem right, challenging it and going to find the truth. John Henry Clark talks about it, how history tells that story. You know what I mean? Where you're going to go. Yeah. So if you go back into the history of why Americans feel like this, it's all American propaganda.
Can I get a little question? Because you didn't state
That wasn't even a question.
But I just want to ask you, all right, so from 9/11, you know, I know it got real crazy. Did it die down, and then did it come back up after the marathon bombing, or did it always stay the same in your eyes?
I think it stayed pretty much the same. I think it died down in the sense that Muslims kind of expected the discrimination, and rather than not expect it. And it sparked back up after the Boston Marathon bombings. For example, I took my children to the July 4th, fireworks.
Wow.
And it's funny because when we were going in, we couldn't carry backpacks. And if you had a backpack, you had to leave it. And my son could not understand. He's 8 years old. He doesn't understand 9/11. He was born definitely after 9/11. And he was too young to understand the Boston Marathon bombings. Kept asking me, Mom, I don't understand. Why can't we bring a backpack in? And I had to look at him and I say, well, there was a couple of bad people who did bad stuff. And for that reason, people are afraid of backpacks now. And it's hard for an 8-year-old to understand. Why are people afraid of backpacks? Because you bring it to school.
Let's see if you watch the Blue Pools, because they got a little backpack thing.
Yes.
On the Blue Pools. But let me ask you something. Another question. I wanted to ask you, both of you guys, if you guys like anyone to answer. The fact that how in this day of time in America, the Boston Marathon bombing, right? And does a specific group of Muslims get this more than another specific? Because, like, you know, you got Sunni Muslims,
Shiites,
Shiite Muslims, you got all these different types of Muslims. Does one specific group of Muslims get it more than other Muslims in your eyes? And you think the President Obama kind of like addressed this issue during his tenure?
Yeah, so I guess definitely different groups will feel it more than others at different times. But I think, and I think you mentioned this earlier, where because of the ignorance, people they can't really tell the difference. Or maybe Mike, you're the one that mentioned that people can't tell the difference. So they can't tell the difference between a Muslim Sunni or a Muslim Shiite or a Sikh, or just anyone that's that looks maybe Indian or something. Hindus, yeah, exactly. So you have discrimination against all those groups in the name of Islamophobia, but generally you can't really tell the difference, and so you can't say just and I know this from like my group of friends and stuff that are in the Muslim community. You have some people that have never really experienced a large form of discrimination, right? They deal with microaggressions every day. I think we all do. but they've never dealt with an incident that can be viewed as a much larger incident. Whereas, even if they wear the scarf, even if they're Black Muslims, so it really depends on the individual. I know personally for me, my entire life I thought because I'm a male, I'm white passing at times. If there are people that are darker than me in the room, there's that privilege of being lighter than. Unfortunately, and
I know you be using that card a lot though.
I don't use it a lot, but I understand.
I would be a lot.
Get him where you fit in.
Right?
I'm white. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
The airport. I'm white. What are you talking about? You just good food there.
Well, in airports it doesn't work because of the name.
I know, right?
But that's the thing, and I think circling back to your earlier question about did it decrease, did it stay the same? I think we just got comfortable with it. We just learned to live in a world where this is a reality. And I know, so I graduated from WPI last May, and throughout my time at WPI for the 4 years, even though I was extremely involved on campus, I was an executive in 7 different organizations, had 4 jobs every year. Studied mechanical engineering, so I was definitely present on campus. But at the same time, I basically lived a life of anonymity because I would try to avoid telling people my name, or I go with Ahmed instead of like Ahmad or something, and I would try to avoid being linked to Muslims, to Islam, to anything other than the norm, I guess, and it's unfortunate that we have to live that way for for a lot of kids. That's their only option. So when we're talking about schools and stuff, a lot of kids will do that. They won't talk about their dual identities. They'll just, try to fit in with one. And unfortunately, mental health-wise, that causes a lot of problems in the long run. Because if you're not supported with all your identities, that's just a very easy way to end up with a lot of anxiety, depression, a lot of forms of mental health illnesses. But if on the other hand, if we are integrated into society, if we are accepted for our multiple identities, like we should, it actually helps you mental health wise and for wellness. So it's
that's why I like the fact that my name's Nathan Pickens. Cause I get through that interview process until I get till they see me.
Until they see you.
Yeah,
Yep.
I might be white.
It's not a white name.
Nathan Pickens is a white name.
It's not a white name.
Yes, it is.
I'd like to add
it's
in,
white.
we were talking about identity issues, and I think a question that I get a lot is, why are people from America joining ISIS or these extremist groups? And the problem is because it's the youth that feel like they were outcasted, feel like they were never accepted. So to actually solve that problem is in our schools. We need to have our teachers and our educational leaders understand that all identities need to be, welcomed and loved and felt like they are accepted. Because if not, this is exactly how, gangs recruit, this is how extremist groups recruit. So when people come to Muslims and say,
off the hate,
if people come to Muslims and say, why don't your mosques help us out and identify people who would join ISIS? We can't because, mosques don't have memberships. We don't have a registry that we're going to go through each name and have like a test that they go through to figure out, are you an extremist or not? But the best way to do it is by making sure that all these kids, and especially youth, feel welcomed and not outcasted, so they don't look for other places to feel like they fit in.
Thug life.
So,
we got like 5 more minutes.
Right.
Thug life.
We give a shout out to Asima's daughter for courage, right? We should give a shout out to Ahmed for his courage at being a Muslim studying engineering. That's courageous,
Mechanical
bro.
engineering.
There had to be some,
I need your card.
scary situations out there, bro. Hey, shout out to you, man.
Thank you.
That's some courage right there. So here's my question, right? So that brother here, he's actually a minister, right? A minister, right? And we have.
Me too.
I was raised as a man. I gotta ask you about praying. Can you make salat over pork? Is that possible?
Pray. You can pray over anything.
Yeah,
What
you
talking
can pray
about?
over anything.
I heard that was illegal. I heard you can't do that, yo.
Illegal?
I know.
What are you talking
I know people who make salat over pork. It's crazy. I know
Jews, they
this-
pray over all their meat.
All right. Anyway. All right. So that's just it's baffling to me. All right. So.
I'm not quite sure I understood that, but okay.
And so I thought you it's against the rules to eat pork, and so you just wouldn't do hey. Anyway. So we'll talk about this later.
Yeah.
You trying to call me out?
I know somebody who eats pork and makes
Swine, swine.
Yo, I'm getting lightheaded right now, yo.
So anyway,
Well, I would just say that would be just considered a sin between, what God said and didn't do. That doesn't mean you can't make salat, though.
okay.
It's just like a Muslim can't drink. But there are Muslims out there who will drink alcohol, and that's considered a sin.
Okay.
But that's between them and God.
Okay. All right. So I was saying this brother here. So I was raised a Christian. I'm black in America, so we get force fed that, right? Like Jesus, right? As soon as you come out, right? But I don't believe in any creationism, right? But at least I can have these heated debates with him, and not necessarily fear for my life, right? There's a conception or perception that those type of discussions about theology and creation are not even up for debate with Muslims. I know that there's so how real is that? Like that narrative or that belief? And yeah, what do you think about that? Like, and what do you think about so they take certain examples. Like I remember there was like a teacher in like England or something like that with the Muhammad teddy bear, and like did they kill us like that? But I know like they was about to kill her. Like it went down because she named the teddy bear Muhammad. Yeah. Thoughts about that? Like is that an accurate depiction? Is that propaganda? Is that what do you think?
So the thing is, there's 1.6 billion Muslims out there, right?
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of different communities, a lot of people that take different interpretations, right? For the mainstream Islam, you're supposed to actually have these discussions.